describe your family lifestyle growing up?
So yeah, I had a really good life growing up. I grew up on a farm. My family's really close. We all live in Fargo. My brother in West and my sister in South Fargo. My parents are just over in Valley City growing up on the farm. So now that we're all grown up and big kids, it's nice having the farm to go back to on a busy weekend, kind of relax for the week.
To go back to your religious life, was there a turning point, like a saving point, or was it more of a continual conversion?
Yeah, I was actually very non-religious growing up, not religious at all until I went to NDSU. So when I was younger, I actually really wanted to be famous like everyone else. I did like modeling and acting when I started when I was like 15 all the way up to the end of high school. And I was actually about to pursue like a major kind of more of a national role as like modeling and acting. But then it ended up not happening. I was supposed to go to Florida to meet agents from LA and New York, and it ended up not happening. And the funny thing is, a month later, I had gone to what is called a search retreat in the Fargo Diocese, and that was my first experience not only with Catholicism but with the Eucharist, more importantly. And that didn't kind of evangelize me, but it set a base for evangelization. And then my first month here at NDSU, I had met a focus missionary who was just really zealous and on fire for the Lord. And through many conversations with him, he eventually kind of evangelized me to take my Catholic faith more seriously.
Describe more like that relationship was with that particular focus missionary. What did you guys talk about? What did he really push you to do?
Okay, so I'll talk about a specific instance that was really a moment I'll never forget. So I was his name's TJ, if he's listening, he's probably listening. I was in his Bible study, and this one instance I'm thinking of, it was towards the end of Bible study. I'd mentioned that I had not gone to Mass that Sunday because I had gone to an evangelical service. And at the time, I didn't know there was a difference. I thought as long as you're going to some sort of church on Sunday, it's okay. But to Catholic teaching, that's actually a sin, and a mortal sin at that, to not go to Mass on Sunday. So TJ had pulled me aside at the end of Bible study, and he talked to me about how I didn't go to Mass. And then he looked at me and he said, "Ricky, what does it mean when we get to the end of our lives and we're not saints?" And it puzzled me. To be quite honest, I didn't know what a saint was, and that kind of explains like the level of Catholic education I had in my life. So I said, I don't know, I didn't try hard enough. And then he paused and he said, "Ricky, if we get to the end of our lives, we're not saints, it means we're in hell." So that was a kind of a jolt for me, put my life in perspective, because I said, I'm sure as heck not living my life like a saint. And I always had a want to go to heaven, even though I wasn't a practicing Catholic. So that desire for me to go to heaven really created that jolt in my life to strive for a deeper conversion, and that's what happened.
What sacrament in the Catholic faith impacted your life more so than the other ones?
I would say the Eucharist and communion. It's changed throughout my Catholic life. There was times where I was deep into sin, and confession was my favorite sacrament, but I would definitely say the Eucharist, and I would call myself like a Eucharistic-centric Catholic, where everything goes to the Eucharist because the Eucharist is Jesus. So that has definitely been the most impactful sacrament for me.
How has the Newman Center impacted major decisions like religious vocation or job occupations?
Yeah, so man, there's a lot of stories to be told from here, but like I said, I was telling when I was speaking at the Bismarck banquet that I've been to beautiful Catholics around the country in DC, New York, and St. Paul's Cathedral in Minneapolis, but the St. Paul's Newman Center had such a special impact on me, even though we have our dark chapel with 50-year-old bricks and not quite the 150-foot ceilings, but at the same time, it's the same place, or it's the same church where God spoke to me for the first time. So it's always been right in my heart, and that was always the place in the chapel that I really discerned major life decisions. It's where I discerned what vocation I'm called to. I remember a distinct conversation with God in which He placed on my heart the desire to be in married life later in my life. It's the same place where I've discerned my job occupation in the future in that chapel in the first row. So the Newman Center definitely had an impact, not only on my vocation, my job occupation, but everything in my adult life since I've gotten here.
What would you say to Catholics or people who are investigating the Catholic faith? What would you say to them if they aren't hearing Jesus in prayer, or if they're having that dry spell in prayer?
So yeah, that's where I go back to my favorite sacrament, the Eucharist. I'd say start there. We can start by looking at lectures or reading books, but it really all starts with the Eucharist. It all starts with Jesus. And one of the things that I've fallen into a trap thinking in my life is I'm not hearing Jesus at my point in life. It must be something that I'm doing. But one thing to pray about is you might very well be exactly where Jesus wants you to be, and He just doesn't have anything to place in your heart at the moment. And that might be the reason why you're not hearing anything.
So as part of the development team, what are your hopes with the new Newman Center complex?
So when I heard about the new complex a couple years ago when we had the ceremony to go public with it, I said, there's nothing in my life I felt more strongly about than this new Newman Center, because it had such a strong impact on me. But this goes to the people that I tell about the new building, and we know the numbers. We have 3,000 to 4,000 Catholics here on campus, and 80% of them are going to drop out of their Catholic faith by the time they're done with college. So when we have this new building, this giant church right on the corner of campus, it's going to dominate the campus. You're not going to be able to miss it. And I think it's going to be so inviting. And what I tell parents is not every kid can get into a prestigious Catholic university. There's many of them around our area, but they're academically hard to get into. So if a kid can't get into a Catholic university, NDSU and the St. Paul's Newman Center is going to be your next best option, because I think with this new building, we're not only going to be a strong Newman Center, but NDSU as a whole is going to be pretty darn close to being a Catholic university.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that people should know about you, or any advice that you'd like to give?
Okay, so I went to a SEEK conference a couple years ago. I think it was 2017 when we went to San Antonio, and what I did coming back to it was I really wanted to engage more with other people, and the way I did that is I focused, and every conversation I had with somebody, I said in my mind, give them a genuine experience with another human being. So we're in 2018, everyone's on their phones. I know you walk through campus. Before class, I think it's hilarious. It's like 3 minutes before class, the hallway is packed and everyone's down looking at their phones. So when you have just a short conversation with somebody, and you give them that genuine human experience where you're engaging in the conversation, you're listening to what they're saying, it's a very salient experience for somebody. And as Catholics and Christians, when we have that joyful attitude, people really start to be curious of why is that person so happy all the time. And I can't tell you how many times in my life where I've just carried myself as a joyful Catholic and people have asked me why you're so happy. And it's a great way of engaging with people and eventually with the hopes of bringing them into the faith.